So we're going to have an opportunity this morning to talk about an area that I have great enthusiasm for. And my only regret is that we're not seeing enough, in my view, focus on the issue of our extraordinary assets that are below our Earth's surface, and this is geothermal. So as we welcome our panelists to the dais here this morning, or the table here this morning, again, I want to thank colleagues for their interest in this. We had an opportunity just a few weeks ago to go to the Arctic yet again with several colleagues, and we were in Iceland, had the opportunity to see the extraordinary potential of a nation that has decided that they're going to take advantage of their renewable resources with a goal and a vision to be 100% renewable. And it's not all through geothermal. The vast majority of their renewable comes to them through their hydro resources. But then they supplement that with geothermal and the opportunity to not only use geothermal for heating, to thaw the ice and the snow off their sidewalks, for their public swimming pools, but for everything as innovative as drying the bones and skins of cod that come from the processing facility so that they can be sent over to African nations as a protein base. It's what they're able to do when they have this extraordinary resource, and just a good example of the almost limitless power of the Earth's internal heat. It's countries like Iceland, the Philippines, Kenya, and El Salvador that have realized the enormous potential of this emissions-free resource. They've made it a majority source in their energy supply mix. But unfortunately, outside of several states in the West, geothermal has been historically overlooked here in the country. It's interesting that on this committee, we have so many members that actually have geothermal interests in their states. Senator Lee from Utah, Senator Risch from Idaho. Nevada enjoys the benefits of geothermal. We certainly have it in Alaska. But we have great opportunities throughout the country, and being able to identify those opportunities, I think, should be a priority. So whether it's used for heating our homes or keeping the lights on, geothermal provides clean and always-on energy that requires no external backup. You know, we talk a lot about, well, we've got great potential for the wind, but what happens when the wind isn't blowing? Great potential for the sun and solar, but what happens when it's nighttime and the sun's not out? You don't hear that with geothermal. These resources are constant, they're reliable, there's no such thing as fluctuating, intermittent earth heat. So that's a pretty big advantage here. A new report from the Department of Energy entitled GeoVision, Harnessing the Heat Beneath Our Feet, calls geothermal the untapped energy giant. And they've determined in that report that geothermal could represent a much larger percent of the U.S. energy mix. By 2050, we could be looking at nearly a 26-fold increase from where we are today. This rivals the growth of solar, wind, and hydraulic fracturing. So the potential is out there. I think it's pretty extraordinary. I was a little disappointed in that report that Alaska wasn't featured in it, but okay, we'll keep working on that. But setting that aside, I look forward to hearing more about what went into the report. I think it's a pretty useful roadmap for what could lie ahead. GeoVision does a good job of laying out the technical and the non-technical barriers that have kept us from realizing geothermal's potential. And it shows that if we can address them through policy and innovation, this resource can make a huge contribution to America's future. When I talk to folks about geothermal, one of the things that they tell me is that, well, it's challenging because we're viewed as, quote, a mature renewable. And so if you're mature, there's not a lot of interest in doing something new because what's new? This is stuff that's been around forever, and what more can be done to enhance it? Well, I think that's part of the reason for the conversation here today. Regulatory reforms alone we understand, could double geothermal capacity. And technology improvements focused on exploration, discovery, development, and management of these resources could again increase geothermal electric power generation nearly 26-fold from where we are today. I think that's significant. And in Alaska, we've got pretty abundant supplies of geothermal. I tell people you've got an Aleutian chain down there that's nothing more than a string of volcanoes. Around the south central area, great potential for geothermal there that we have visited. An estimated 2.4 gigawatts of possible generation there. The most current assessment ranks us behind only California and Nevada in generation potential. We're starting to take advantage of this resource around the state. I think you've been to Chena Hot Springs, haven't you, Mr. Simmons? If you haven't, Dan Bruyette has.
Yes.
We've had several others from the Department of Energy that have come to our Renewable Energy Fair and seen the benefits of a low-temperature geothermal there at Chena that provides for heat and power to this small resort far, far below the cost of diesel electricity, which is how they were generating their power. In Juneau, our state capital, geothermal heat pumps support the airport. We've also, again, got promising regions on the Seward Peninsula, interest in what is going on just north of Nome, and, of course, I mentioned the Aleutian Islands. So these are pretty exciting prospects for a state where the cost of power generation is a significant challenge, and where the opportunity for clean, reliable resource like geothermal could go a long way towards easing that burden. So looking forward to our panel this morning. This is the first hearing that we have had on geothermal since 2006. How could that possibly be? It's such an exciting area. Wow. We're going to fix that today. We've got 5 experts who can tell us more about the findings in the new GeoVision report, as well as other recent developments. We have Mr. Daniel Simmons, who's the Assistant Secretary of Energy for the Office of Energy Efficiency and Renewable Energy. Mr. Timothy Spisak, who is the State Director for New Mexico, Oklahoma, Texas, and Kansas at the BLM. We have Catherine Young, the Geothermal Program Manager at the National Renewable Energy Lab. We always love having folks from NREL here. We have Mr. Tim Latimer, who's the founder and CEO of Fervo Energy, and Mr. Paul Thompson, the Vice President of Business Development for ORMAT. We like what's going on at ORMAT.